So I'm Jake. I'm originally from Westfield State in Massachusetts, and I did 2 semesters here at ICS, and now I'm studying in Florence, and then I'm going back to Westfield after that.
My name is David. I did a semester abroad with ICS in 2023, fall 2023. I went back and graduated. I'm from New York. I went to school in Lehman College. Now I'm working as a teacher, and I'm getting my master's in Toro College, and it's really nice to be back.
Okay, so I'm Gio. I'm from Illinois. I went to the College of Lake County, and then now I'm at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee.
I think it was definitely just like the friendship that we made this semester. I think the program did a great job of making you just get really close pretty quick, and then you make great friends, and it's hard to kind of have such an intense experience and then go and not see each other. So having an opportunity to come back and also see the city and kind of relive it a little bit and see all the memories, all the food, it was hard to pass up. So it worked out with the time, and I think more would be here if they could as well, more people.
Yeah, I think what Jake said is pretty much like on the money, I would say. It is pretty cool to be back. Like we made like long-lasting relationships, and even meeting outside of the US, outside of Europe when we went back home. That felt like really great just to have like people around, but it's also like the place. I think Seville is a really great city, and the program did a really good job at bringing us together, or just sharing like cultural experiences together, like because of how different Europe and Spain is from the US. And it feels really good to be back like with people that we met and seeing the places that we used to like walk around.
Yeah, and then I agree as well with everything they said, but also like even just being back now, it doesn't really feel like I'm on vacation. It kind of feels like I'm home again. It's crazy because I've never been to a place away from home that actually like makes me feel like I'm at home. And then just like reliving everything, and then getting to see our host mom again, and then everybody from ICS. It's just been it's been really like nice to see. And then after a year or two,
I have two that I think about a lot. One being one of the first nights that we were here after meeting everybody from the school. We went to this bar in the Park Premier Garden, where we all sat down for drinks, and just like it was such a good time being with like people who were just really open to making new friends and being in a new place. So that was just like one of the peaks of it, like the beginning, like the whole trip ahead of us, and meeting a lot of great people. And the other one for me was the trip to Morocco, because that was just kind of out of my comfort zone, going to Africa, seeing like such a different place, and the trip was so great with, again, all those people that we had met. So yeah, those were two that stood out for me.
I would say the same thing. I think the very first night was like very vivid. Like thinking back at it, like it felt so good to just like be in the same spot, in the same place, like just not just like geographically, but the people that we were with were in the same situation as us. We are in a whole different country, whole different continent. Some of us thought that we knew what we were gonna see, and then it's like completely different. And just knowing that we had people like our age and people who also share the same like American values, and we're like shaken by the ones here, and just enjoying a night out. I think it felt kind of like the beginning of something, and it really was like from that night on. I feel like our friendship just became like stronger and like better, to the point where it's like, oh, like we always like check up on each other even now, like even if we don't see each other every time that we would like, we still keep in touch with everybody, not minding the difference, like the time difference, or how far they are in the US from each other.
yeah. And even now with being back, it's like there's so many memories. So even if you're like just walking through El Porvenir, and then you're just like looking around, you have so many memories that you could like that are attached to it. But also another memory that I do, especially like we are now here for Thanksgiving, but I remember last Thanksgiving Like it was just a really like it was set up really nice, the whole event, and being away from family and being able to like still feel like you're with other people that make you feel more comfortable. And I do remember at the end we were like outside of the restaurant, and I just remember making a big group hug with like Sandra, Lisa, and then other people from our group as well. So it was really nice. It's something that I do look back at, and then also like kind of also with what was kind of a motive to come back for Thanksgiving. Yeah. And then even our trips, I agree. In the beginning, since everything was so new, I do feel like that was a memory that I'll always like have, and something I will think about. But even like our trips on the bus, like when we went to Cordoba, when we went to Granada, like just being on a bus with everybody, and then everything was just so playing games on the bus, and like it was a good time.
So we did one like big meetup in New York, which was a lot of fun. It was just like kind of surreal seeing everybody outside of the context of Sevilla. And then I know, everybody kind of lives in different places, like on the West Coast, in Chicago and New York. So I think they have more little smaller meetups because they have people closer. So if you guys want to talk.
Definitely in New York, I would say with the two other girls that I became really that our friend group like kind of like became close with. We usually had like either like weekly meetups or just like going to get coffee, going to get food, or just hanging out, going out for drinks. And yeah, I think the trip when everybody got together to go to New York, I felt like that was the closest we got to being back here or experiencing like, okay, these are the people who I got to see a whole different side of the world with, and we ended up like loving it. And it's sort of like a bond that lives on. It's like, okay, like Sevilla is like the city where we felt the most at home. And even like Gio said, like I've never had another place outside of like my other two homes that hadn't felt like home. So that was a really good experience. And I also went back to Chicago in October, which was really cool. I got to see three of our other friends, and that was really exciting. I think it's really cool to just keep in touch with people even if they're really far away.
And it kind of also like grows like our like the travel bug that we have now. It's kind of like, oh, where can we go next to visit like our friends, and then kind of like go see also like how their life is like in the location that they live at. But I had also like two other friends who flew in to Chicago. One is she studies at Hawaii, and then my other friend too, who's in New York. So it was pretty cool to see them in. And then we also got to go to Lollapalooza, which is like a big music festival in Chicago. So it was really nice to see everybody and then kind of show them around and everything too. Oh, and then I have a trip planned to Hawaii coming up too. And then it's gonna be one of my friends from New York who's flying with me, and then we're gonna go see some friends who were from studying Hawaii, but they also studied abroad last year.
I think mine was living in the host family context. It was a big change. The house situations here are a lot different than what we're used to in America. And at first it was definitely difficult, and I had a great host mom, and it was still just a big change. But I'm glad I went through it because it taught me like how different people's lifestyles are around the world, and maybe some faults with ours back in the United States. But I think the most like useful part of that was just getting comfortable being in an uncomfortable situation, but like for a long time. Like it wasn't just, being uncomfortable, like the first day of school. Like it was, I'm living here and this is going to be different and I have to get used to it for 3 months. And so that's not something I've ever done before, but I'm glad that I've kind of grown those skills.
That's really interesting. I would say that for me is just how different like living in another country could be, how different like lives are across the globe. Like back in the United States, it's really hard to think on any other way of living, and I guess that's sort of why a lot of people just have a culture shock whenever they visit another country, like especially if you're from America. And I'd say like the most impactful thing of living here was probably how safe and how easy it is to get around in Seville, and I would say in Spain and maybe just the EU and in general. It's so easy to get around. It's so easy to go everywhere, and I think it just makes you feel closer to, even to people who are completely different in other countries, neighboring countries. It goes to show like how similar we are. Like we're more similar than we are different.
I think so. The most impactful thing, what I guess you could say, was like just the entirety of being like in a different country, being alone, and being with people like you don't know. And it's kind of made me like, when I went back home, everybody in my family and also people I knew were like, "Oh wow, like you are very brave to like go on and go out to a different country and live there for 3 months with random people too." And then now it's kind of like it changed my mentality a lot. Like there's so many things that I could do now independently that maybe before coming to study abroad I wouldn't have done, or even like with traveling or really anything. I think now I just became a person who doesn't really wait around for other people, which I would usually do. And now it's like if I want to do something, I'll do it. And even like with living like out of state, like even living out of state is different, but like living in an entire like different country or continent was super different. And then also like having a host mom too was really impactful, because it's like you have a mom who's like not your mom, but she feels like your mom, because she gives you that motherly, like that love, and then like cooking, and then also like you have somebody. So like even when I felt like homesick and I felt like, like I wanted to have like my family around, I kind of like created a family here, and having like a host family was kind of like made everything so much more easy.
I think I would tell myself like how much easier it was going to be, like as an experience as a whole, like how the program does a great job integrating you with friends. That's like obviously a lot of people's fears. Like it's going to, no, you have no friends going into this unless you come with some from your university. So knowing how easy it is to get to know a lot of cool people, and also how, like I said, the difference of living in a host family and in that other culture, but how easily you adjust and get used to that discomfort. So it's intimidating, but it's worth it, and it's not as insurpassable as it seems.
If I could go back and tell myself something to make this experience better, I would say just go out and just like bathe in the culture. Like just don't stay closed off like mentally or physically, that you cannot be out there, you cannot be around people who are from here. You definitely can. I think just keeping that open-mindedness. There's like so many things that you could be doing, and the time here is so limited. It felt so limited at the time, and looking back at it, it felt like there should have been more going out that could have attended, and I feel like that's something really valuable. And that's how you become like more, you end up with more friends, you end up like connecting with people, just being out there, being uncomfortable all together, even if it's just out in the street.
Yeah, I think what I would say to myself is to take it all in. I think because in the beginning I took everything in, of course, but and then like when you hit a point where it's like you get homesick, or like you start missing a lot of home at home and everything, I feel like a lot of that time is like, you think that you're here for such a long time, but you're really not. Like it's very limited. So whatever felt like in the beginning, like, oh, I'm gonna be here for so long, like like, or like when you have that point where it's like, I kind of want to go back. I think that's like, instead of worrying so much on that, is like just take everything in, because sooner or later it's gonna be over, and then you're gonna wish that it didn't come so quick. So definitely take it in, and it's all right to like feel like homesick, but just don't let it be too like long, is what I would say.
That being here has allowed me to be more I guess, reflective on life in the United States and politics in the United States. You know, seeing how other people live with less consumerism, for example, or how people live without needing cars to get everywhere, especially makes me reflect on like, wait, why can't we have things like that in the United States, or the food, the quality of the food here. Whereas before, it's easy to say that, you know, the US is the best and we have everything figured out here. But when you see another perspective, you start to question why things are how they are at home.
I agree. I think coming to Spain, it's very eye-opening to see how some people just have things that in the US are considered privileges, like just like healthcare or being able to get around or just making a livable wage. There's just such like high commodities back in the US, and here they're just standards for pretty much almost everyone. And I think that just makes you reflect on how different ideologies like have gone like in the US government, and how different they are from the EU or just Spain in general.
I also agree, but I guess with my perception as well is that I felt like prior to coming to Spain, I have traveled like a little bit, but I guess not really on this side of the world. So it felt so far and so like not doable. And I guess going back from Spain now, my perception has changed, and I feel like I could easily come to Spain, not easily, but I could, and then like even seeing the rest of the world, like to go more towards Asia or to go towards Africa or like different continents. Now it seems more doable.
Well, this is one thing that we have done already, but it was definitely the top of the list for us. Gio and I had been together with our host mom, and seeing her again was our priority. Her name's Miriam, and she was just like the sweetest thing ever, and like she made great food, and we just felt like we had to see Miriam again, and we did. We went out last night to dinner with her, and it was just like seeing an old friend. And we want to try and see her one more time before we leave. And I think that's like one of the other great things. Like the city is always here, but also the people. When you come back, you feel like you're at home because you have so many people who are like, oh my gosh, you have to come say hi. ICS, the host moms, any locals that you make friends with, and you just feel like such a connection, and you always feel like you're welcome somewhere.
For me, I'd say that one thing that we must do before we go is definitely be at the Thanksgiving dinner. I think that's the closest thing we got to being or feeling like we're back at being in ICS, at least with like at least two other people that were here the year we met. And also, yeah, like saying hi to the people that we know. I feel like just walking down the streets that we used to, or even discovering new ones in Seville, I feel like that just makes you feel a lot more connected to the city. And it makes you feel like it is more of a home. The more you see of it, the more people you meet, the more friendships you develop. That just connects you even more.
Okay, so definitely the top of my list was to see Miriam and to go out to see with her again. So shout out to Miriam. But I guess the whole thing too before we leave is I really do like on the last night maybe is we've done this already, but like just go walk again, like walk the whole entire city at least, and then like just take it all in, take in the views and everything. And then also before we do leave, we have to go to Bollywood, which is like something I've been thinking about too. And that is actually a spot that has a lot of memories, because we would like every week, usually on a Friday, we would all meet up there, and then we would just like before any plans for the weekend or anything like that, we would like catch up and just it's a good spot. So definitely check it out before we leave.
Of course.
Yeah.
Great, guys. All right. Well, I think that's it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.